We're going to be thinking about what the main messages are as all of you report. So I'm going to start here. And the first question, I don't mind if you answer the first question, the second question, you talk about this building, or you talk about the properties to the north, or you ended up having a conversation that was more general. That's fine too. Just let us know, and we'll start here, and then we're going to move to the folks up the side of the room and just move around.
Okay. Hi, my name is Paul Moore, and I live close by. And so our table, we had a good variety of people. There's one person in the museum industry, Diane Lister's representing the ROM, so it's really neat to have her insights. But a couple of things came quickly to mind during our conversation, and that is we just talked about museum attendance in general, and how competitive it is, how difficult it is to get, if you're going with the museum concept, which is part of the mandate, or the question here is in terms of the priority in presenting Toronto's history, which is the framework of the museum.
Right.
It's the location here is really, you need something but really, really accessible to be a popular museum destination. And also to repeat attendance too, not just have people come once like many of us have to the Ontario Science Centre 25 years ago, and then another 25 years later bring your grandchild or something like that. You really need repeat in terms of the revenue over expense model. You need professionals to be running that. We also talked about another take on this structure, I guess on the north too, but using these beautiful assets as perhaps running it as more as a community model, which is could be for the arts, sort of like an arts and letters club type model. This is an amazing site for that, or performing arts, something intimate like an opera atelier series or event or something like that. You've got, you know, it's just a beautiful venue. Public access is really an issue, I think, that certainly came out. And also, if the space was sort of rented for private functions, the ability to keep public access available at the same time, so it's not either open or closed to the public.
Would be important to keep that access? Okay.
And so is there anything that I missed or?
That's great to start us off, and all of you guys can weigh in after.
Okay.
Unless there's anything major. All right, no, group on the side. You guys had a bit of a different flavor for your conversation. Stand up and let us know what you were talking about.
I'm Dale Joffrey. I live up the street from the stables, and we were talking mostly about the north campus.
Okay.
The hunting lodge is it has beautiful grounds. I don't know how many of you know, have walked around it, but there are beautiful grounds there, and it is a beautiful site, not just for a museum, but also for small affairs. It could easily be used for that kind of thing as well.
You mean like events?
Small events, yeah, that kind of thing. Afternoon teas, or as this gentleman said, perhaps even if this site, as a museum, if it develops as a museum, it could be used sort of as a halfway point for the dining area, the restaurant area, that kind of thing.
Okay, great. This table at the back, give us some highlights.
I think our table was most concerned about what kinds of development proposals are going to be entertained for Casa Loma itself, the south of Austin Terrace property. We were most concerned that the developer is not invited to come in and turn it into a boutique hotel and in exchange pay for a museum on the north side.
No, there will be no hotel here.
So our table was most concerned about preserving the character of Casa Loma as a beautiful house, castle, for people to visit during the day, have it open to the public as much as possible, more accessible than it is now. I find the rate to visit the garden is extortionate, as beautiful as it is. We were worried that we appreciated the proposal to develop a Toronto museum, but we were also concerned that that has potential to divert millions of dollars in potential funding away from the refurbishment of the main castle building. So we were also, one last thing, whatever development proposals are invited and considered, it might be up to City Council to have very firm parameters in place. We were thinking of the Liberty Grand or the Carlu, that kind of event potential is clearly here, but we need very firm parameters in place to maintain the heritage character of the building and the accessibility as a public space as well.
And you don't have to answer this right now, but maybe as we work around, you said heritage character and public access. If there is something in particular in terms of the heritage character or public access that you would want to see protected, if you can describe that in particular, if it came up right away, then tell me. Otherwise, I'm going to just look for it when I come back around. Anything
To
obvious?
me, it's the Palat family
Right.
and the house they designed,
Okay.
the whole thing.
Okay.
I
Good.
think.
Should. Okay, next table. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Can I add just
Yeah, sure.
one more thing to that?
You want to
I think it
stand up
is-
and loud as you can?
Sorry, I think it is possibly as well the potential imagination that this building represents to the young people in Toronto, the children. So a children's own museum, I don't know, but something that would be a potential to continue to captivate their imagination.
Okay. Great. Great. Next table. You want to give us a flavor of what you talked about? Anybody?
Yeah, you certainly got a good segue.
You did something interesting for 15 minutes.
Well, we had a representative from Liberty, she just brought up Liberty Grand, and there's someone there from the Liberty Group, so we were discussing about its potential in that regard.
Okay.
And I think there was probably some pushing and pulling and backlash towards the idea of it. I don't think we got quite far enough into it, but the idea in terms of, with the Liberty Grand, for example, you were taking over a building that maybe didn't have the same level of, it wasn't quite as interwoven into the fabric of the city and the history of the city as people looked at it. So you could probably turn that into an event space more easily.
So the Liberty Grand, when it happened, wasn't necessarily as woven into the heritage of
Right,
the city as
the
it could have been.
innards of it essentially, as you were saying, there wasn't much inside of it.
Well, it was a shell of a building, but it was restored to, basically it was restored to the point where people now think that, they see the building there as being there for almost 100 years now. And really for 75 plus years, it was an empty shell of a building, and it was, unused, unwanted, unused, wasn't generating taxes or, revenue for the city. And now it's, used all the time. It's constructed in a way to preserve the heritage of what it was intended to be right from the beginning.
Okay, and then others at your table were worried that maybe it wasn't a good enough reflection of the 25 years where it wasn't a shell.
No, I think
Or is
more
that
that,
right?
Well, I think that maybe you couldn't necessarily apply that same logic to this building, though
I
it would be,
see,
though it would
okay.
be handy to do so.
Okay, great. That
well,
is
I
helpful.
think the topic was primarily, do you use it as a museum or an event space?
Okay,
And your argument was that it could really only be used as an event space.
Well, from
To be-
a revenue generating perspective, it may be more feasible as an event space than a museum.
this building,
Yes.
yes.
But
Great.
it's both of them now, it's both at the same time, now, today, but it can be tomorrow. There's at least 2 exits upstairs. The Queen Dome Rifles and the Girl Guides.
So I think that that's consistent with a lot of what we've heard from some of the other folks, and in terms of being able to generate revenue, probably more feasible to generate that money as a event space than as a museum, which is consistent even from the table where we're hearing from folks that work at the ROM. But not everybody has to agree with that, so let's just keep rolling. This table, what did you guys talk about?
So we covered quite a few issues. One of them kind of ties in nicely with what we were just talking about is the governance and the operating model and how that may or may not assist with funding. And then there was also support for provincial, federal, and funding from the Queen, if that's possible. And then also, one idea that I really like is opening up the competition to be international, which is the way that they actually do it in Paris. There's concern about the North Campus and just the issues associated with that site and how you would overcome them.
Like what?
Just the infrastructure issues, plumbing, that kind of logical, those impairments
Okay.
associated with that site and the fact that it's heritage layered on top of it and the things that you can and cannot do, et
Or
cetera.
the museum on the north side.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
good.
And then just in terms of thinking about the bigger picture stuff, just thinking larger than what we're currently thinking for the site. And I didn't get to have a lot of time to sort of,
That you table
Draw
thought it would
more
be
into-
better to think bigger?
Yes, keep it open.
Good, say,
Yeah.
explain it. What do you mean?
well, I was just in the middle of saying that I didn't get a chance to draw out more information.
No, I know, that's why I'm asking that.
Okay, what we're talking about, for the requests for the proposals as they sit, as I understand now, are really, really limited. And it goes by the typical status quo, it messes things about, and it's what happened with the Guild Inn and the request for proposals and the nonsense there. So why limit it? Why not keep it open? When they did the Paris Opera, they had an open competition around the world, unanimous, so nobody knew who was making the designs. They submitted them, they had a vote, and they won, and it happened to be a Canadian, Carlos Hawk, who won it. That's the way they did it in Paris for the world's largest competition. Why not with our request for proposals and our request for interest to have it as an open agenda? Don't dictate to the people that are going to be making the proposal that they have to pay $2 million in restorations, that they have to pay enormous taxes, things that you never had the Kiwanis pay for 70 years. All of a sudden, people are going to come in, and that they have to be assigned to a lease of 10 years with the caterers that are currently here. Those are the city's problems. They're not the problems of people coming in and making proposals. So don't ask that of them, and make it an open proposal and
As much flexibility as possible.
Exactly. Why, when you limit it
Okay, good.
yeah.
Got it.
So I just, I
Yeah.
don't disagree with, I think most of the comments are fine. Qantas did pay taxes, I just want to.
Well, they just didn't pay in the last 20-year lease. No taxes.
Keep rolling. What'd you guys talk about? And then I'm gonna keep swinging around. Yeah.
This stuff's over here.
No, I'm missing these guys. I'm going all the way around and then I'll swing back. So if you wanna go next, I'll come back over here. But you're gonna mix me up. Yeah, I went to that table already. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
So we've lost 3 of our table mates, but I had a long conversation with this man from England who has run a boys' school and really feels that Canadians do not know anything about Canadian history, and this should be greatly emphasized. So we spoke about creating immersive history experiences out of both campuses, that this could be a kind of situation where when school children came in, they could become part of some of the roles that took place in this building, including laborers during the Depression that built the building, to look at the kind of pseudo-history and the real history, looking to England for inspiration architecturally in the sort of the colony. And then also using the outdoor spaces for things like, grooming a horse, doing some gardening, doing some very kinesthetic activities that children like to do to create a real sense of experience for the day. And then also, conversely, providing family experiences. And from experience in the museum industry that I have, I know that the triumvirate of the family experience is something to do, something to eat, and something to buy. So you need to be able to shop and to eat as well as have your experience here.
Great.
Okay, I had another conversation with the lady next to me who has since left. We were talking about how much fun it is to go to the Michael because it's a day out. You can have a good time. You can have lunch. There's something for the kids to do. We felt that many cultural facilities in the city are getting too expensive. The admissions are too high. If something happens here, it should be financially accessible. There's some concern about how difficult it is to get here from either TTC station or a long walk. One of them is uphill. And as a museologist, I know those rare creatures. I do worry about the amount of interest there is in the history of the long-term canal. I mean, there probably is potential presented in a very interactive way, but how much interest really is there now? And how much attendance overall at cultural attractions in the city is flatlining and trending downward. So I think it really is a challenge to have a museum that's financially feasible.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, the lady that has just left and myself, I'm Ian Wheel. I was former historian to Morden Mills Museum, East York. And we came up with, first of all, the concern that there should be some sort of link up between the 4 sites, a bus shuttle or something that would go from one to the other so that people could easily gain access, a connection, in other words. And the second thing that was considered pretty important was because the Great War anniversary is coming up, the First World War, some sort of military tattoo involving horses in the stables would be nice.
Okay. Let's go over here because you guys were holding your horses.
On the first question, I got the sense from all of the people made sure that the high level support for it, and indeed we had a lot of ideas as to what would be useful and practical exhibit from a car show, a concourse elegance.
In this main building, right?
In the grounds generally, and I think too, we all expressed the concept that they should be operated perhaps together or in concert.
Oh.
Which city, and perhaps even for the
Okay.
So the other ideas we had were the car show, museum for exhibits celebrating, the entrepreneur that built it and other entrepreneurs, an entrepreneur of the year award, corporate funding, memorials to Ned Hanlon, rooms to go to him, Toronto.
Who specifically?
Ned Hanlon.
Oh, okay.
Roar.
Yeah, like Hanlon's point. Yeah.
So lots of ideas, which I would interpret as strong support for having this operated. Was a view expressed that, as it is, it's a bit of an embarrassment.
Operated differently than you mean?
Operated more effectively.
Okay.
With respect to the ideas on the future of the North property, I think, again, there was unanimity that we wanted the architectural integrity of buildings preserved and the grounds, to the extent we can, the grounds. We didn't want to end up with a glass tower with the facade of the Staples. And the grounds preserved to the greatest extent.
Okay. Good. Let's keep rolling. Wait, can I talk to you guys already? No? Okay, good. Highlights are good?
No, I think most of the points that we made have been made. We really want to continue the building as that building exists, and that there be continuity between the 2 sites, and that access is a big issue that lots of people have already had.
Okay. Great. I love it when that flavor of what you guys talked about. Oh yeah, continuity between buildings and access and general access.
Ease of access.
Improve the ease of access.
And not expensive
Of access and affordable. All right.
The overwhelming thing that we all agree is that we don't want to jeopardize the existing Casa Loma experience or the revenue stream. So what Josh was saying, that you're looking to find additional revenue, and so kind of blue skying ideas that would add to the museum experience, assuming that you have the existing experience, plus you've got the museum. We wondered if there could be a proper sort of higher margin restaurant operating on the terrace in the summer or in the basement year-round. You could look at the CN Tower model there, where they have a sort of cafeteria for people who come up to visit, but then they also have the rotating restaurant where if you eat a nice meal there, it's included in your ticket price, because you might then also get neighborhood people using it just as a restaurant. Market it there as an international tourist destination, and then on the North Campus, talked about the museum itself, that it should be interactive with rotating exhibits to encourage repeat visitors. Some of the land potentially could maybe be used for community gardens by local residents who could rent plots or even schools. It wouldn't generate a lot of revenue, but it might also generate interest in the land is just sitting there anyway. Something to do with it for the time being. Maybe try to create a destination by marketing some old world sort of Toronto type festivals that aren't done anywhere else in the city, that specifically come up year after year at Casa Loma. And then this idea other people have talked about as well with the lodge, but with either the lodge or the stables, whether or not with a modest renovation, you could operate some sort of cafe or something, because you do have that green space so people could sit and eat and their children could play, and it would be very appealing, I think, to a neighborhood. I don't know who some of the considerations would be, but certainly I live in the neighborhood and there isn't really any place like that. It's very common in England where you'll go to your sort of local restaurant and then there'll be a park and you can spend the entire afternoon spending money and your children can run around.
Okay.
So.
Can we just add that driving by the castle these days, it seems to be there's an awful lot of international tourists now on site. And I think that's a marvelous thing that they're coming to Toronto and they're wanting to see the castle and they've made a part of it.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Now add you guys. We got a couple more and then the crew at the back. I'll go to this table here and then out here. Go ahead.
Well, first, I want to thank the councillors for their interest in preservation in Toronto. It seems to be a thought that we should rename our city Condo City, as everything seems to be going down. So it's refreshing, and we're going to have their commitment. So this table, I mean, I'm a history educator from the University of Toronto, so I clearly think that this space, in some way, to recognize scholarship and research, both something that would be, locally, but also this would be something that scholars could come to look at the thousands of artifacts that are there, especially indigenous artifacts that we have from the city of Toronto. It would be something that Canadians across the country and internationally would come to. So this is not just a local thing. We can think of this more broadly. But the table thought of the answer to this is sort of like the brickwork, so we need a multi-purpose area, that we have a lot of things happening here, that the museum is here, and as I said, a place for scholarship and research. We agreed with what you said about Canadian history in the schools, kids doing direct research when they came here and really engaging in the past through a local lens is really the way to engage students in history in a more meaningful way. We were thinking of partnerships in terms of creating a multi-purpose space for like a culinary school. You know, you had mentioned about gardens or maybe an art school. And then I was thinking about the University of Toronto. I mean, there could be a place where you get funding. George Brown or the University of Toronto are always looking for partnerships. They're looking for space. And that could be a relationship that would be good. So you could have scholarship and research and different studies taking place with students during the day, but then in the evening you could have events that were taking place, because clearly this is a wonderful space for events. And also space where people can buy things, but definitely multi-purpose.
Great.
What were you going to?
Great. How about this table up here? What did you guys talk about?
Okay, so we had a few themes here. One was event, beginning to sort of reimagine what the idea of event would be here in this complex. An idea about program for the museum, and also something relating to a larger picture, which would be the Heritage Precinct, and how this fits into that idea, as well as...
Okay, I'm gonna, just so I know what you're talking about when I have to brief other people on what happened here, I've got 3 different ideas. So you had reimagining...
And there's one more.
Oh, good, yeah, okay. What's the last one?
And the other one...
Because you're gonna explain each of these?
That's it.
Okay.
And the north campus has the idea of a working site. So event, from the point of view of the event experience, maybe thinking a little bit more along the line of a sort of not just private events, but a staged open invitation event. Jen's example was the Friday Night Live at ROM, which is apparently tremendously successful. Some event that doesn't happen every week, but happens throughout the year in intensity, so it really maintains interest. In terms of the program for the museums, there was an idea about supporting the history of schooling in Toronto as something worthwhile to look into as an examination of the political and other challenges that arose around that issue. The idea of a scholarly resource as a collection, a place for a collection, whether probably here in the south part of the site in having the casa itself as a resource to try and again get another type of use other than event tourism. Try and layer the uses so that there's activity, there's a sort of redundancy of activity. It's not just reliant on any one particular stream.
That seems to come up, if your table kind of, sorry to pause, other people talked about this, diversity and beyond just those two uses. Stick your hand up if your table kind of covered that, like right up. Yeah, it came up a few points. Yeah, okay, good.
And the other one, the working site, historically the stables and the hunting lodge were actually the place where work was done, where people lived, and where the castle sort of took its shape from. So using it as a center for urban agriculture to reactivate some of the greenhouses, try and make it as a center of learning for that kind of pursuit might be a way of adding some program to that part of the site.
Great. Okay. Anybody in the sort of gallery at the back, did you guys talk at all, share ideas? Even if you didn't, anybody back there want to weigh in on anything right now? Yeah.
I've been staff here for about 20 years, and I'd just like to
speak up really loud, they want to hear you.
I'm very proud of what our staff has done up here now. If you can imagine, starting we had 90 people maintaining this building, and they've always stayed, and there's a handful of 30 people taking care of it today. I witnessed in 1999, if I'm not mistaken, an amazing exhibit we held at the stables of the Lord of the Rings, and it was set up in the stables area in the same conditions as today, and it was a great success. It doubled our revenue. So therefore, I do believe that if we do offer rotating exhibits, we could actually increase the threshold and increase attendance to the castle. And I would like to see perhaps a museum developed in the northwest area, so Staples and Hunting Lodge area, which would make an excellent exhibit space, and probably not with much for its frame investment. That's for
probably not require a large investment?
Probably not.
Okay.
And for this side of the building, whatever we've been doing seems to be working for us, and definitely there's always room for improvement, and can we work that out? So I would not change very much in this part of the building.
All right. Okay. So, and we got about 15 minutes left. And I'll look to Mike and Eva also, if this is the kind of feedback that's going to be helpful for you as you're moving forward, nodding head, okay. Anything you want to weigh in on, now's a good time to jump in the next 15 minutes, and then I'm just going to open it up and try and move around. I'll start here, and then I'll come to the back, and then back up here. Yeah.
Could we add just fundraising as an item? And I think there's a real art to fundraising, and some companies are really good at it. And great, there's a lot of things that we can pick through this and put under fundraising, but it really has to be in the forefront.
Okay.
Then if I could add a second thing.
Sure.
I was in Norway this summer, and they take items of culture and they put them into the curriculum, and they say every child in grade 2 in the whole country must do and i.e. visit Casa Loma.
They do that.
And it would, and it could fall into many different grades. I mean, we could work with them, you know,
right,
with curriculum at the city level, and then it could go to the provincial level, because Canadians, we need to stir up that pride in Canada, and I think we can do it through the education system. Okay, at the back.
We do it.
Go ahead.
I'd like to see a museum up here have a strong partnership with the archives, which is down the hill, which is a major cultural institution in the city and never gets enough airplay or attention. And they're natural archives.
Great. Okay, yeah, I'll just try and move around a little bit. Yeah, go ahead and then I'll come up there.
I'm Richard McFarland. I've been associated with the city for 25 years in records and archives, and also been involved in rowing history and other historical initiatives, including the Press Club, I might add. It has a ton of history that's waiting to be displayed in artifact. One of the issues in this, obviously, is that typically in museums, only 10% is displayed and 90% is archived. And depending on how it rotates, you might not see the Victoria Cross medal for several years, if not more than a decade. And I went to the Canadian War Museum and I said, why don't you display all the Victoria Crosses together? And they said, well, there's politics involved and there's other pressures involved. But what I think has to happen here is that somehow we have to figure out the displays and the artifacts. For instance, I have one of the original chandeliers from St. Lawrence Hall in my home. And I was very lucky to acquire this several years ago. And I would love to donate it possibly to a museum after I'm gone. Because it's really like, it has this kind of design. And it's French and it's continental. And it's very historic. We have to also look at artifacts and how we're going to engage the public either on a philanthropic basis or a donation, sort of gift-in-kind basis, because that's how you refresh collections, and that's how you bring Toronto to a museum such as this, to visualize and have a vision on how people from the city can donate artifacts. It could be as simple as a lamp or a table or something that related to the history of the city. I'm trying to do this for my school as part of a historic museum. And I'm sure all schools are trying to do this, to attract people to donate something of them, so that it becomes all of us. And I might say this has been a very successful consultation process in the fact that Mike Williams and Ms. Warren were also involved in the Waterfront Portland's consultation initiative, which I attended as well. So, but this is part of the feedback that's very, very important, that we become part of this process, that we're not divorced from.
Okay, gentlemen at the back.
Thank you. A lot of great ideas here. I like the layering of museum and events and classrooms and whatever else comes up. The one thing I haven't heard all night is that a lot of the people in this room are residents and neighbors of the castle. And we're used to a certain amount of traffic and stuff. But I think speaking for all the other neighbors of the castle, we want to be able to have a special things going on that we can make use of the castle, and not just the tourists in the city. It's also our castle, where if there was a Saturday night dance here once a month, be great.
Right.
And that kind of events for the neighborhood.
That's fun.
All right.
Yes.
And when we first started doing conversations on Casa Loma, before I started 6 or 7 years ago, we talked about how to connect it to the community because of that dual audience, right? The broader sort of tourism audience, but also the neighbors. So it's nice to see the ideas continue. Yeah, over there.
This issue reminds me of a couple I met from England who I don't know the name of it, but I think they work for it's either the Queen's Trust or the Land Trust of England or something like that. And all they do is keep up estates that are like this. And I'm just thinking about in terms of a model where, public access, revenue, and also keeping up the integrity of the building, but keeping it making it into a viable major attraction. And I don't know what
maybe it's a model to look to. Maybe that's a model to look to.
Yeah, that's a model that I was thinking of. But also in terms of philanthropy, I did a fundraising feasibility study, which I forgot about, many years ago for the 7 official residences of Canada. And there are a lot of philanthropists that would be interested in something similar like this here. And I would say that if you draw a circle around Casa Loma, especially to the east, north, south, you've got 25 to 50% of Canada's wealth within a mile or two. So there's a lot of potential.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. I found this meeting troubling. Would you consider returning Casa Loma and the lands around and these apartments that started from ashes that someone burned and built apartment buildings? Would you consider them returning to Palace family? I'm retired now, and within the next few years, few other family members will be retired. And we will be more than happy to take over Casa Loma, awesome house, large house, and everything else that used to or still belongs to us. I just found this very, very troubling.
Would give them a topic, yeah. Okay, the suggestion. Vera, you mentioned it when we were together 6 months ago, so the best people to talk to are probably Eva and Mike. And if other folks are interested in the details of the relationship between the property as city-owned and the history of the property, it's probably best for these guys to speak to it. Michael?
Well, I don't know whether you can return necessarily to the original family, but it is true that this building was developed because an individual person wanted to do it. And I don't think anything like this would have ever happened as a social project. But now you're trying to find a social purpose for it. And I think that's going to be very difficult because it is not really a social project. And it's also most interesting on the outside. I mean, the inside is a very nice place, but there's nothing special about it. The outside is what people really want to see, and you can't charge money for people to see the outside. So the inside adds a little bit of extra value, but when the person was coming here to see it, they could only see the outside of the inside, they would see the outside. So I don't know how far you're going to get with turning this into something that has social value. But I didn't realize there was so much gardens and gardening going on here. But I would suggest that gardening and agriculture is probably the best direction to go in.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Get here.
Yeah, I'd just like to make 3 comments. I could talk for an hour easily on this subject. I'd just like to make 3 comments. To answer the question about the Queen, okay? I think the answer to the Queen is not the Queen, but it's the Lieutenant Governor and the Governor General to have a royal visit.
No, this is a private property.
Okay, but
it's not the Queen's property.
Right, but we're just gonna, you're not gonna be able to argue
Talking about a
all.
royal visit, okay?
Yeah.
When I say a royal visit, I don't mean the Queen, I mean the Duke of York. The second point I'd like to make is that we can't ignore the Austin House next door. I think the solution, I know it's a bigger opportunity, but just because it's owned by the province and the city, that should be an opportunity. And we need to think of the whole thing, including Austin House. And the third thing was the entrepreneurial spirit here. This was built by an entrepreneur, and I think we should somehow get that into this museum, have an entrepreneurial aspect to it, have an annual dinner, an award, Entrepreneur of the Year, those sort of things. You've got an event that's ongoing and attracting wealthy people.
Okay.
The other thing is, it's not just the stables, it's the garage. Okay? He had a car. We all have cars. We need to focus on cars. You need cars in the garden. You need concours de elegance. You need photos on the front of the Toronto Star with cars and the house. And you need CTV. I think they're here somewhere. You know, why are they on here now? They should be here every week. This place should be on the front every week with cars, weddings, whatever.
Okay. Any final thoughts? Yes, sir.
Just a word to the mixed use of the place, and someone mentioned the evergreen model.
Yeah.
One of the things I think works down at Evergreen is the fact that they have a core central mission that everything spirals out from. And until you actually have that, I don't think you're actually going to be able to move forward like that. Evergreen's they're an environmental charity, and that fuels all the things that happens down there. So until that's sort of in place, it can be very difficult to actually sort of move forward.
I'm going to go right to the back. This gentleman standing up.
I'd like to preface this by telling you that I'm not a business owner. I have no particular business interest in the space, but as an occasional visitor, I can tell you that it feels like a government-run space. It doesn't feel like anyone's running for profit. It feels old and dusty inside. It's beautiful outside, but I think that the key to my perception of the key to success would be to have it run some element of private enterprise. People are motivated to keep the space out and to bring customers in.
Okay, there's a couple other hands. I'll go here and then here.
I just want to refute the gentleman who said that there's nothing interesting on the inside. I just went on the audio tour and I was just totally fascinated with the details of the inside of the building.
Okay,
sir.
Yeah, no, I would agree, and I'm not a big fan of private enterprise. I think they've ruined enough of the city, quite frankly. That's another item. But I think what we need to do too is to speak to, there's I'm sure a lot of community groups that would be interested. Certainly the schools, I'll just reiterate a lot of the things that were said. But the school children, I mean, what a great day trip it would be for them to come down here. Maybe an open house once or twice a year should be considered. Certainly Christmas, I see the Christmas display set up, and that's a great idea. Memberships, possibly, like the ROM, like the London ROM and the Science Center and the AGO. Should try to solicit pictures, maybe from some of the people, Torontonians, about what the views and any pictures they might have of the Casa Loma, their thoughts or ideas. And maybe get other personalities like Steve Fagan involved to do a little interview or put a sideshow on it to spark some interest. And I think the idea of somebody like George Brown College would be a great way to go to get some sort of historical teachings or maybe some interest, a course of some sort. And the only negative thing that I see about this whole thing is parking and traffic.
Okay. So I'm gonna come. I'll come back to the back there. And then I'm just gonna do any final thoughts, something you haven't heard, because a good public meeting, you've usually made it around when you've heard the same thing a few times, because we've started to cover off a lot of the common ideas. I'm going to go here, and then I can see your hand there. And then I'm going to see if Mike wants to say anything, or even to wrap it up. John.
Just to add in, I think that Toronto can see we should include the living history of the city and the diversity of Toronto that exists beyond the old city of Toronto. So I want to bring that aspect in, and that sort of gets the museum into communities that are not represented.
Go ahead.
So my comment is feedback from yours. I think this community is being fun museum.
You have to speak up a little bit.
My comment piggybacks on his.
Yeah.
This is going to be a City of Toronto museum. It needs to be a museum that's inclusive, that represents multiple histories, Indigenous histories, working people's histories, women's histories, and represents the diversity of our city.
Great. Haven't been said yet. Yeah.
I think although we have a fairly, shall I say, middle-aged group here, we have to look at digital spaces and try to introduce the ability to hack into an electronic environment that will somehow create a living mode for this facility throughout all of its campuses and generate lots of interest in the digital natives who are younger people than most people in this room. So I think there's got to be a way of expanding what this is beyond a physical facility and to create a virtual facility out of it as well.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I want to piggyback on what the fellow at my table said about creating a community space for people in the neighborhood. Looking at the North Complex, if that could be turned into some kind of community performing arts center where you've got community bands and orchestras and choirs and theater groups and dance groups where people would get together on a regular basis. I think that would be a solid community focus.
Okay, I'm gonna wrap, is there, yeah, last one?
I'd just like to take a couple of minutes, if you don't mind.
2 minutes?
Yeah.
1 minute. We got 1 minute after 9.
Okay, I just want to thank the
Oh, you can stay.
councillors here. I was at the executive committee meeting. I was one of 2 people in this room at the executive committee meeting where I gave my thoughts. I also presented my ideas at the previous meeting, and I want to tell you that my frustration with this place and my concern about the ineptness is I want to congratulate you. Okay, I think you're getting serious about this now. I think people are getting behind this, and I look forward to good things happening. And I want to thank the 2 councillors for their help and support on this.
Did he steal your thunder on closing remarks? Yeah, okay, so we're done. Mike, I'll hand over to you.
Okay, I'd just like to thank Nicole and Bianca for helping me again. It's great to have facilitators who understand the topic that we're talking about, so that was great. I want to thank everybody for coming. I hope that you continue to keep interested in the castle. We will be posting the feedback we received today. We will be emailing it to those people that have left their email addresses. This is a public, transparent, and open, consolidated process. We actually have some fairness consultants that are working with us to make sure that it continues to be that way, and our feet are held to the fire of fairness and openness, and so we'll continue to do that. This is yet another step, and I appreciate your positive feedback. Your tone tonight was a little bit different than the last time that we met, so I appreciate that.
I want to make one comment. At the executive committee meeting, councillor here asked for a public meeting to give feedback to the public, and city council denied that meeting, right? That proposal. So I don't know how you did it, but you did it. You did it in spite of city council.
And I would like to leave the last word to Councillor Mahaffey.
Well, thank you everyone for coming, and I want to pay special tribute also to Mike Williams because you know, at the beginning of this, the idea was let's sell this, let's monetize everything that we can.
Not my idea.
Not his idea, not his idea. But we've come a long way, and you know what I heard here tonight was this is part of our story as Torontonians, and whatever else has to happen, we have to make some money here. We have to engage some entrepreneur that is going to help make some money here, and we want to leverage that money. And we are counting on the good wishes and strong work. Eva Piet does a great job. She's making money here now on this site on a daily basis, and we appreciate that. And their cleverness will have to find a way to meld the business entrepreneurship and what I see as the heritage social entrepreneurship that is in this room. That's the challenge before us. So, you know, I feel that good public processes that engage the public, you always take a little longer, but as you engage it, you get a much stronger product. And I think we will get a strong product with your engagement. So stay in touch with us, folks, and feel free to send us emails, Councilor Matlow and myself emails. We'll do our best to see what can be done. Thank you for coming, everyone.